Well, let me do this. It's coming up to 3.5 hours here. I'm not.
Yeah, my wife did come up in the middle, so it was just like I'm sure she's ready to blow my spot up. So
I'm not sure that the even beginning. I think I might have had the audio wrong in the beginning, but I want to go back as I always do to some of your earlier wisdom to end on that. Unless you have any closing thoughts. And it's
God, did I have some wisdom? I want to hear it myself.
You always have wisdom.
I can't even believe it.
It's you were talking about we were talking about comedians or writers, and you have people with agendas that will tell you that they're not writers because they're just trying to break your spirit, or they're just ignorant, or a combination of both. So I thought it'd be great to end here with Jerry Seinfeld talking about the construction of a joke, and then we'll go from there.
All right, let me see it.
Let's do it. Hey, Dad.
I know you think people are going to be interested in this, but they're not. I've probably been working on this for 2 years. 2 years? I mean, usually I write a bit in a couple of days. It's a long time to spend on something that means absolutely nothing. But that's what I do. That's what people want me to do, is spend a lot of time wastefully, so that then I can then waste their time. Comedy writing is something you don't see people doing. It's a secretive thing. I've never shown anybody this stuff. I feel a little funny about it right now, to tell you the truth. In comedy, what you do is you think of something that you think is funny, and then you go from there. It's a fun thing to say, Pop-Tart. I like the first line to be funny right away. When I was a kid and they invented the Pop-Tart, the back of my head blew right off. And that got the whole thing started, that a specific part of my head blew off. Not just my head, but just the back. It was the 60s and we had toast. We had orange juice that was frozen years in advance that you had to hack away at with a knife to get a couple of drops, and it felt like you were committing a murder before you got on your school bus. Then I talk about shredded wheat, which was like wrapping your lips around a wood chipper. You have breakfast, and then you had to take 2 days off for the scars to heal so you could speak again.
You always write on...
Always, yeah.
Have you ever tried to...
No. I don't like that cursor flashing, looking at me like, so? What do you got?
Do you have a special pen?
Mm-hmm. Yes, the Bic Clear Barrel Blue, which I wrote every episode of Seinfeld, the TV series, with that pen. Larry and I used to write them longhand. Oh, because you can't be in this? Oh, that's a drag. That was good timing. So, in the midst of that dark and hopeless moment, the Pop-Tart suddenly appeared in the supermarket, and we just stared at it like an alien spacecraft, and we were like chimps in the dirt playing with sticks. What makes that joke is you got chimps, dirt, playing, and sticks. In 7 words, 4 of them are funny. Chimps are funny. Then there's the trying to figure out as a kid, how did they know that there would be a need for a frosted fruit-filled heatable rectangle in the same shape as the box it comes in and with the same nutrition as the box it comes in. In the midst of that darkness and hopelessness, the Kellogg's Pop-Tart appears. And they always laugh there because that indicates, oh, he's telling us a story. And then my next joke that I want to get to is chimps in the dirt with sticks. So now I'm looking for the connective tissue that gives me the really tight, smooth link, like a jigsaw puzzle link. And if it's too long, if it's just a split second too long, you will shave letters off of words. You count syllables, to get it just, it's more like songwriting. Then I had to figure out how to end the thing, and that's the hardest part. If you have a long bit, the biggest laugh has to be at the end. It has to be. It can't be in the middle or the beginning. And this was very daunting. Once this Pop-Tart had come into the world, I didn't understand why we were still eating other kinds of food, because this seemed to be definitely the new way. 2 in the packet and 2 slots in the toaster. Why 2? 1's not enough, 3's too many. And they can't go stale because they were never fresh. They can't go stale because they were never fresh. That took a long time. And I know it sounds like nothing. And it is nothing. You know, in my world, the wronger something feels, the righter it is. So to waste this much time on something this stupid that felt good to me. It's the exact opposite of what we do here at the Times. Which is we spend appropriate amounts of time on deserving subjects. So I'm the exact opposite of that. Inappropriate and undeserving subjects.
This just... Okay. You, sir, are a writer. So we shall...
Aww.
Isn't that sweet?
Oh, look at me. Look at me. I'm just doing comedy over here. I'm just dropping stuff.
Yeah, and you're like you're playing tipping a hat to the classic comedians, the Keystone Cops and all of them.
Hold on now.
So, yeah, I think we got video. All right, sir, I will let you have the closing words.
Well,
if there's anything else lingering on your mind, by all means.
Well, you played that clip. I gotta talk about that clip.
Go for it.
Well,
you're the expert. You're the resident
that Jerry
expert.
Seinfeld, it does suffer from OCD, and it really helps him. You know, it definitely feels like very OCD, right? So, like, if there's anything wrong with Jerry Seinfeld besides being a narcissist, is OCD, and it is really difficult what he does as far as writing jokes, because there is easy ways out and there's hard ways out. So he's able to get a lot of stage time to really hash out material that's really difficult to do. So it's very difficult to become a comedian because this guy gets stage time wherever he wants, whenever he wants. So being so old and getting stage time helps him to maintain his materials. The word I'm looking for, it's not credibility, but that it's good stuff usually.
Yeah.
But the thing about Jerry Seinfeld, and you were sending me different comedians that you like: Norm Macdonald, Bill Burr. Norm Macdonald, Bill Burr, and somebody else. Louis C.K. I think you might have thrown in there, but I'm not sure. But it doesn't matter.
Back in the day, yeah.
Back in the day,
Chris Rock, Dave Chappelle.
Well, they all have distinct comedy voices. So when they speak, to me, when Jerry speaks, even when he's just explaining, it's kind of sort of funny. Even when he's even just talking about writing a job about a Pop-Tart, something about the way he says his words, it's funny. You know, some people just have that gift. It's a really difficult thing to do and feel good about. So I'll tell you, I'll do a joke for you right now that I'm working on that just popped in my head, and I'll deconstruct it at the same time. So, because one of the things is like, you know, working with you, whenever I should tell you when I'm about to do something that I need help with, or that I need you to tag on to this, because joke writing is good if you have somebody else there who's like, okay, but you should go here, or why didn't you try this direction? This joke's a little bit, and I'll tell you what's wrong with this joke and why it won't maintain. So one of the jokes that I have is...
I have some feedback for you, sir. I'm talking to an imaginary person. You should completely get out of comedy. All right.
When you do jokes, a lot of times when you're doing an audience, you're doing it in front of an audience, you want them to have some sort of connection with you, that you want them to get to know you right away. So one of the jokes I wanted to do is that my wife is from Trinidad, and she's Indian. But the thing about being Trini from Indian is that most people from India don't believe that Trinis are Indian. So if you try to score points with them, they will be immediately like, oh no, but she is not Indian from the proper, she was once from India, but now she is not from there, she is from Trinidad. And that is completely different. That is, these people, they dance and they move their buttocks and they curse way too much and they drink too much. Oh, trust me, they are not Indian. And this guy never said that. That's just me talking and adding an adding an Indian accent. And I got to apologize because all of that you shouldn't, because doing an Indian accent, you already get laughs for doing. Like, if you do a Russian voice, if you do an Indian voice, people are already going to laugh. Now you're afraid, are they laughing because they're racist, or is it because you're talented and you can do voices? So in your head you have to. And so, it's as a comedian, first of all, most people would say, dude, don't do it. You can't. Indian accent, that's hack. Everybody does them. It's an easy laugh. So again, like, I just wrote this joke, basically, telling them about my wife and that I'm married and my wife is Indian, and then, doing this joke with the tags and then saying, okay, that guy never said that. That's just me talking in an Indian accent. And
aren't you worried about in this? I mean, we're really sort of in a post-PC culture.
Oh, absolutely.
So
I mean,
super sensitive. Where if you're not Indian, only someone with an Indian accent can
is allowed to do that voice.
Which would make me just want to, right? Because I'm like, I don't want to follow that. So, how do you even balance that or tackle that?
Definitely there's just a concern. You're absolutely like, who would want you to do that? You'd have to be an established comic where it's okay to do that. Robin Williams, who died today. Or yesterday now, I guess it's past the time, who died yesterday, he was a master at voices, but he would do black people and he would do Chinese people, but he got a pass, right? Because he was just super talented and there was a twinkle in his eye. There's not too many other people who do it. I was going to bring up Will Ferrell, but he doesn't really do voices.
Don Rickles also. He did it.
He did some terrible. A lot of people. So it's definitely in this culture. It's definitely. I mean, when I wrote that joke, when I thought of that joke, I was like, oh, it's hack. I know doing an Indian voice gets you a laugh anyway. It's problematic because you never know what's considered right or wrong in the world of comedy. And that's why it goes back to guys who get all upset about hate speech and talk about freedom of speech because they don't like to be. What was that? Is that a rim shot? But comedy writing is a lot easier when you can get lots of stage time. Anytime for as long as you'd like. I'm not saying that Jerry Seinfeld isn't a great comic, but joke writing is very specific, and a lot of guys who were really crafted do put that kind of work in. It's hard for me because it's boring, and I also evaluate, and it's hard for me to sit there and go to feel good about what I write. So again, that's a real problem with me is feeling good about what I write, and it could be because again I've come in and out of the business, and you're learning the tricks, and you're using too many. You're using too many tricks to get over. You're understanding the game, and what you should be doing is developing an act that's sellable, that you can just go from place to place and eventually get on TV. And you sort of have to have a real discipline. And like guys like Gaffigan had that, and Teddy Alexandro, people really knew the game. The game is get your 5 minutes, get your 10 minutes, get your 15 minutes. Make sure it's strong and clean. That game has changed a little bit, obviously. Now I don't even know what the game is, but back then that was the game, and you had to be tough, which means you had to go in there and know that most of the time your act was probably going to bomb until it really got good and structured. So you're going to go over and bomb, and you have to push for stage time while you're bombing and try to do your other. Mm-hmm. It's really, really difficult. So joke writing is lonely. It feels weird. You feel crazy doing it. That's why I always wanted to be a comedy writer where you sat around in a room with a bunch of guys. But the problem was when I got into comedy, I was like, oh man, I don't even like other comics. Like I thought for sure when I got there I was going to be like, oh, I'm in the same field with everybody else. I love these guys. And as soon as I got in, I was like, I don't like these guys either. I don't know where I belong. So I would love to work for a really good show and just be like a joke writer and do it that way and like tag on or whatever. It just never felt fulfilling. But I think you have to have, it goes back to being a really good fighter, really good comic writer. I think it takes huge ego. And if you don't possess a huge ego, you're going to struggle. You're going to really struggle because you need that huge ego to survive. And we've talked about this a long time ago in fighting. So I mean that's how my words of wisdom. I don't know what kind of wisdom is, but that was the newest joke that I thought of, and I was like, that's a worrisome joke. It's hack. It does open the door for me to talk about.
I just think your biggest hurdle would be the accent, and I don't say that with any sort of warning or admonishing, because if someone tells me I can't do anything, then it makes me want to do it more. So when I heard that, I'm like, the people are going to be like, oh, there's an Indian. Because they're racist. I don't want to say they're racist, but You know what I mean? Oh, can we do this? And I'm like, well, are you racist? Am I racist? So I just wonder, though, how much of that external influence, I know you would think about it and care about it, but would it prevent you from doing the joke?
I would say,
and there's no right or wrong answer. I'm just
in the comedy world, in the comedy club, that joke is almost always going to work. That joke I just wrote, and that's how I know that's like a 90% success rate, because once you do an Indian accent, if you have the talent to do any accent, people just like it. That you're able to go up there. I did Russian before. If you can go into 3 different voices in a 2 or 3 minute, people will just see that as a talent. So they're just impressed by the talent. It's like memorizing something and then doing it. People do the same thing, right? If you get on stage and you memorize something, people will applaud. It's weird. Mm-hmm. So again, it just so happened that the idea popped in my head after an incident where somebody sort of made those comments about the difference between Indian and Trini. But I take it to just really just being, I'm just going to take it to where I just make, every time I'm going to do it for my own enjoyment, I'm just going to make it more and more ridiculous about whatever they're saying about people from Trini. And then I'm going to say, no, that person never said, that's just me talking in an Indian accent. So that's the punchline.
Right.
So,
yeah.
You're just saying anything new that popped in my head. There's other stuff that popped in my head, like jokes, but to build them completely, nothing. Like, I don't have a joke start to finish where I'm like, that's successful, I can do that. But with that one, I'm like, that's going to work. But in my heart, like you said, for the right reasons, is it acceptable? Blah, blah, blah. You have to weigh all those things. And that's the problem between doing Pop-Tarts. You know what I'm saying? So if you write a joke about a Pop-Tart, you're going to be safe. No one's going to get mad at you for making fun of a Pop-Tart. So again, he's genius in that he knows that within joke writing, if you keep it real safe, there's so much more money in it. If you can be clean and safe, there's so much more money in that. That's what America likes. That's what most people like, is safe and clean.
Yeah, but still, is Chappelle safe and clean? Is Chris Rock safe and clean? Was Richard Pryor safe and clean? Sort of taste.
Well, Chappelle was lucky. He went to Comedy Central. Yeah. Rock has never transferred, right? He's always struggled to transfer in big movies, and he's not going to go TV. So
that's true. But he's considered, a big, comic name. He's well respected, and it sort of begs the question: like, was Andrew Dice Clay funny?
Well, that's, if you're going to bring up that, I had great disdain for Dice Clay. Now, a lot of people love Dice Clay because they were like, it's an act, it's a character. I'm like, yeah, but anybody can do it, and these people exist. But most people who are like in theater or acting really liked it because they're like, no, but he's just in character and he's doing a character. You have to appreciate that. But as a joke writing perspective, I can't. So, but people would not understand that. They're just like, why? I'm like, it's bad for just too many reasons. It ruins comedy. It brings it down to a lower level. They're like, oh, you're just jealous of his success. I'm like, okay. I mean, there's nothing I can say to you to make you understand, because we're talking from 2 different worlds. I write jokes. That's easy. That stuff, what he's doing is easy. I hear that every day when I walk into a locker room. You know what I'm saying? I do hear most guys talk. It's what he's saying is distirbing to me. There's nothing funny about it. But they're like, oh, you're jealous. He's a character, man. I
just sort of, even if I don't follow them or listen to them regularly or whatever, I think what it boils down to for me is I really respect comedians who just speak authentically. And what I mean by that is not like Bernie authenticity, but they speak authentically in their own voice. I think I respect more of that. There are some people who are sort of characters, but even that is sort of their voice, like Chappelle and Chris Rock and Burr and Norm Macdonald. They are really speaking in their own voice. But then you got even people like Seinfeld, who he has a style, not a shtick, but he has a style, but that's his voice. And then you see other comedians where, God, that joke was good, that one was funny, but you're sort of like, who is this person? And then you have your drink, your 3 drinks, and you leave, and you go. And what's lacking there is not them not being funny, but maybe sort of that authenticity of voice. It's like, who was that? That was a collection of funny jokes. And I think that's what resonates with me. Like even your Indian accent joke, like that I was thinking about that, and and I said something along the lines of, the audience being racist. So I sort of like, I was like, why is that amusing to me? For me, I would sort of like the meta analysis of that, right? Like, sort of like you do the Indian voice, and then you hear the little snickers, some people laughing, some people, you're like, well, some of you are uncomfortable. And the reason for that is quite simple, because that small group is racist, and then you sort of do the joke, but then you sort of comment on their reactions. And to me, the joke immediately becomes not offensive, because the whole sort of setup of the joke is you're commenting on their reaction of you doing an Indian accent, and you sort of take it back, right? And then you do some riffs on that. But I just like Dennis Miller, someone I don't listen to, right? And he's conservative, he uses big words, but he speaks in his unique voice. And so I respect him for being Dennis Miller.
The problem is I would love to deconstruct that joke on stage, like you said, but you got to make sure that as you deconstruct or do the other things, like you said, like crowd work, it better be as funny as the joke. You better not lose your So as a comic, you're constantly thinking, I don't want to lose them. I don't want to lose them. So you're sort of second guessing the direction of where you want to go. So that's why a lot of guys just like going up there with their tight set. That I like what you say. I like rawness. I like things happening in the moment. I like things happening on stage. I like this. Because like I said, if I would say one thing about this, what we do is I wish we would do more like joke on top, take a topic and then we try to just rip into it, be funny in this. You just try to layer on top, joke after joke after joke until we're spent. Like, okay, we've crushed that thing. We just gotta leave it alone now. So that's the part I enjoy. So I'm with you. I like rawness. I like more unpredictability, but audiences don't. Audiences really, really, like, you're different. Most people like joke. I'm here for laughter. I pay my money. I leave. They're not the ones that go. The ones who really know comedy will figure out where to go to find that. They'll either follow a certain comedian. They'll go to a certain club. The ones that there's definitely levels of comedy connoisseurs. So that audience is a rarity. And when you're in front of them, it's amazing. And if you can get them to follow you, it's even more amazing. I mean, and there's. And Mark Maron, he developed this audience that's going to listen to his crazy rants and his anger. They enjoy his horrible angst where he talks probably for 10 minutes and he's not even funny. And then he gets a punchline. You know what I'm saying? And then a punchline comes out, and then a bit comes out, and then he's horrible for another 5 minutes. It's amazing their patience. They'll just sit there and listen to him. Most club owners joke to the joke. You're paid by the second you can get a joke out of your mouth. So, and the comics will say you need 5 punchlines per minute. I mean, there's all these different crazy rules of comedy. And for me, it's like, I don't know. I just have different styles. But I'm like you. The more authentic, the better. And there's just so few comics that I'm like, that's probably 80% of who he is. That's probably like Louis C.K. That feels like 95%, man. I feel like he's giving it, like the 5% is just going to get him in jail or something. You know what I'm saying? Because he tries to give you
as we know, right? The parts he left out were,
But he really, if you go all over his material, he does a lot of stupid shit that's just not necessary, that he just does for himself on stage. Like he does it just to screw with the audience. Right. Like, I just did this to screw with you. I just did that to say that to see how you guys would react. I'm like, wow, that's crazy. And you get a lot of guys who also do it, but they're not as talented. So you're always getting like copycats, guys that make you cringe because they're trying to be somebody else and not being authentic. Where, like I said,
Bill Hicks and stuff,
Yeah, they're trying to be, a lot of comics try to be Bill Hicks
Absolutely.
Or idolize him, and then they're on stage trying to be Bill Hicks. It's like, you got to be authentic to who you are. Be honest about who you are. Tell us who you are.
Because it translates. I mean, not to get back to Bernie, but it translates regardless of your gender or your age, right? Gray hair. You got young people who are like, because it didn't matter. You just were like, I'm digging what you're selling here, right? I'm digging your authenticity. Because on paper, it makes no sense, right? It makes no sense. Who is this Sanders guy, this little Vermont person, and he's old as F. So when you get that X factor of authenticity, it resonates. And so, and I think all the comedians we mentioned have that, and they can sort of breathe in between lines, and there's this mojo going on that it's almost exhausting to go to someone else and you're just being pummeled in the face and you're like, what is this? It was good. It was funny. But then you're done. Right. So. And
you can tell how different they are because when they do to me, the really good comedians, and that's why I conclude Robin Williams, and we've talked about this before, are the really good comedians are the guys that when they're just riffing, or if they caught off guard and they go somewhere and they're still, oh my God, so funny, you're like, oh my God, this guy is just legit, just always funny. He can't even control himself. And it's usually the guy, for me, like I said, like a Norm or a Bill Burr, who's just, the stuff, it just comes out of them. They almost like they can't control it. They've tapped in to this door where they're not going to filter what they have to say. It's just going to come out their mouths, and people just love it because that door must be a very similar door that other people just hold shut. You know, it's just like every day they got to shut that door before I leave the house. So I can act like a normal human, and they can basically walk around for the most part and just talk the way they want to talk. So,
well, we should end. Well, actually, we have to end here. It's coming up to the 4-hour Facebook limit.
But now you're gonna make me freak out about that joke and all the voices that I can do, and now I have to go and worry about that, and I won't sleep.
Mission accomplished.
Yeah, so if you don't want to know what I'm going to worry about besides my haircut is, I shouldn't be doing voices like that. But it's hard because I can only do like certain voices, and I'm always like, oh man, you know, like I know that's funny, and you're just like, oh man, I know, I gotta go and write better jokes. I always feel like I gotta go write better jokes, longer jokes. So now I'll try to go do that, but I'll be worrying all along about everything.
I'm so happy that I've created some sense of angst inside you. That's like just a freebie.
But it was good to talk about comedy because that's one of what brings me hope is, like I said, because I'm very not on the line of hope is comedy. Like if I can laugh and if I can go find somewhere where I truly can laugh and get away for a second, that's why I like comedy so much, is because I'm completely, I believe I'm more aware than I've ever been about how bad things are and how desperate things are, and I don't know how it's going to change. So again, my only skill is to try to make people laugh, and maybe I have to do a better, cleaner job of that, but it's always been a struggle because you still want to talk, you don't want to be a phony. I don't want to be a phony, so it's hard. It's a real dilemma. But yeah, comedy is the key, man, to surviving this. And you want to go back. That's why, just to end the broadcast again, like The Daily Show, Colbert, Bill Maher, none of them, for whatever reason, speak to me anymore. Like I'm not getting, and I've talked about this over and over again, I get no recharge from anywhere. So why do I get pumped up to do this? Because when I watch stuff, I see stuff, I'm like, I got to go talk to Curtis about this. We need to straighten this out because they mishandled this, and we need people to sort of understand. And then people are like, why you do that show? Nobody's watching. Well, you got to start somewhere. You got to grind it, man. It's just like stand-up. Stand-up is like you start here, and you go here, and you go here, and you go here, and it's painful. It's good to have somebody across the way.
I'm doing this only out of enjoyment. If you chase something, it's not going to be fun. Because
right.
you're doing it for some wrong reason. This, I mean, and I mean this sincerely.
But that's the way I feel too.
I don't care if anyone watched. I mean, it would be good if someone watched it and they got something out of it. I welcome that. But I'm doing it because I enjoy it. Plain and simple.